Today has got to be one of the saddest days for an exceptionally niche group of Magic the Gathering players. Depending on what kind of player you are and what decks you play, Rotation Day is either the most exciting day of the year or the worst. It's the day where a year's worth of cards magically transform from standard staples into bulk rares, and cards too expensive for your Commander decks can finally become affordable upgrades. That's right, Commander players, this one's for you too. Today, I'm hosting a funeral service for our soon-to-be rotating friends and discuss what might happen to them and the decks that played them. May they rest in peace, or in some cases, rest in piss. Eat Sunfall. One like equals one prayer that they never bring some of these back. And if you play any of them in my Commander games, I will exile you IRL. Let's start with one of the big ones. Last time we had a rotation back in 2023, I kid you not, I saw about half a dozen different Reddit posts celebrating that at last Sheoldred the Apocalypse was leaving, only to be corrected and ruthlessly downvoted. Such is Reddit. Well, the time has finally come, and since last rotation, old Shelly here has had to be one of the most incredible changes of opinion in the community. Going from Satan of the format, killing the game, to now the only thing saving us from the mice menace of 2024 to 2025. Shelly holds the title of being the least accessible card in years, costing more than any card in the format right now, and with her no longer being playable in Standard, we may actually see this price start to turn. Now let me be clear when I say this. I'd like to say her price will drop dramatically. She'll be in every bulk bin at your LGS. But if you've played with or against her, you'll know this won't probably happen. Shelly here is powerful in a lot of formats, not just Commander. She's in high demand so much that at the end of her Standard life, she was only appearing even as a 1 or 2 of in black decks, and she still managed to hold her price. So it's safe to say, it isn't strictly driven by her Standard playability. She will likely end up joining that pool of mythics Wizards likes to drip feed to us every few Masters sets, along with your other all-format all-stars like Smothering Tithe, Force of Will, Cyclonic Rift. On other expensive creatures though, I do expect Zur Eternal Schema to cheapen. This wicked wizard sat for $1 for almost all his time in Standard until Duskmourn came along, and then he suddenly became one of the top tier threats of the Standard format. While the Overlords he paired phenomenally with are still sticking around for some time yet, Zur is likely going to remain a powerful build-around in Commander, but won't be as in demand as playsets of him are offloaded by the Standard community. Keep an eye on his price if this is a Commander you've been thinking of building recently. Before Domain ran Zur as their win con, they also utilized Atraxa Grand Unifier, who is also saying goodbye to us. She is one of the nastier reanimation targets in the decks with the flexibility and color availability to run her, and decks heralded by her in Commander generally tend to fall under what my mate calls game changer typal. People play her in a few constructed formats beyond Standard, where they generally tend to reanimate her, so I won't expect her to crash, but I do think she's a high shot at over time becoming progressively cheaper, particularly cheaper than the next card on our list, which only at rare, Etali Primal Conqueror is another notorious reanimation target. But rather than refueling a player's hand, Etali here simply outright wins your average Commander game. Being 2 colors, he's a vastly easier card to include in decks compared to Atraxa, and pending a sudden reprint, will probably hold steady, if not continuing to climb as the set he features in leaves print. Other noteworthy creatures leaving Standard include Monastery Swiftspear, which before Heartfire Hero was banned, was jokingly considered the worst 1-drop in mono-red aggro decks. While that cards have gotten so powerful, Monastery Swiftspear is actually being cut from aggro decks. Demon Enjoyers will mourn the loss of Archfiend of the Dross, a titanic 4-mana 6/6 flyer. That's ability to tax the life of opponents from creatures dying made him a serious threat. Commander players should look to try him out now and see how quickly they can spread the damage around the table. If you're worried about him blowing you up later, you can also consider donating him with effects such as Harmless Offering or Fateful Handoff in black to quickly make them lose the game instead. Artifact players have a lot to look forward to with Edge of Eternities around the corner, which is why it's a little sad Teething Wormlet will be missing out on being able to be played with them. This little guy just needed a few more cheap costed artifacts to pop off, but now Pioneer players and older formats can look to run him as arguably one of the best 1-drops for green-based artifact decks. Another artifact card more used in aggro is Urbrask's Forge, which was a powerful stalemate breaker until Foundations, when Authority of the Consoles was reprinted and completely extinction beamed this card's play rate. The Forge in particular pairs very well with commanders that care about proliferation. If you got yourself a copy of the new Jeskai Precon from Edge of Eternities, this card could make an excellent upgrade for new commander Kilo Apogee Mine. A few noteworthy Planeswalkers will be rotating out, including Modern All-Star Liliana of the Veil, powerful mill card Jace Perfected Mind, Spell Doubler Chandra Beacon of Hope, and Land Reanimator Ren and Realmbreaker. I expect all these cards to trend downwards in price soon, but the two Planeswalkers I'd encourage Commander players to really watch for are Nissa Ascended Animist and Eternal Wanderer. Both these cards play exceptionally well in Commander for Planeswalkers, with Nissa able to end the game Craterhoof Behemoth style, make a powerful creature, or spot remove, whereas Eternal Wanderer not only trades the spot removal for a controlled board wipe, but also prevents multiple creatures from attacking her at once, making her very easy to protect. I would now like you to join with me as I dedicate this next section to celebrating the demise of Sunfall, a card which, despite being phased out by Day of Judgment in Standard, nearly single-handedly invalidated expensive creatures with interesting death triggers or indestructible. To top it all off, you would often make a massive creature in the aftermath that would swing and end the game for you. Suffice to say, this is actually a very underrated commander card, so I expect it to see play still. But in the meantime, rest in peace, Sunfall. May you never come back to Standard. Beyond the Silence is a new version of Sunfall coming with Edge of Eternities. Well, f*** me. Temporary Lockdown is also a card rotating out, but getting a new replacement in Pinnacle Starcage. I would say this is almost certainly in response to the growing fears players had before bans that if Lockdown rotated, aggro would have little to no counters. Perhaps the most noteworthy thing about this card, however, is that it doesn't hit enchantments. Many players have been quick to label this as a downside, but I would argue the opposite, as it no longer friendly fires your own Rest in Peace and Authority of the Consoles. But we'll see. Cut Down, Go for the Throat, Sheoldred's Edict, and Anoint with Affliction all fall into a category I'm very creatively labeling Black Removal that is rotating out. A few years ago, Black got blessed with set after set of very efficient removal spells. People complained about it back then in 2022, I think, and Wizards in response started toning it down over the years. Here we are now, and you can finally say goodbye to these. But if you play Black, don't be too worried. We have several new and recent options. For Cut Down, Stab was reprinted in Foundations. Actually, I don't even think it was a reprint. I think it was a new card. But it's your downgrade that will still address many early game creatures. Sheoldred's Edict's closest companion is Momentum Breaker, which loses its ability to target Planeswalkers, but probably more importantly, can no longer be played at instant speed. Shoot the Sheriff is the interesting replacement for Go for the Throat, which functionally should be identical on average. Some noteworthy cards you can't shoot that Go for the Throat could hit do include Cloud, Midgar Mercenary, Hired Claw alongside half of the Lizards, Spyglass Siren, Unstoppable Slasher, Marauding Marco, Nurturing Pixie, and Vengeful Bloodwitch. On the flip side, Black won't be as paralyzed versus artifact creatures anymore, which mainly hits the Gearhulks, and Gruel Delirium, which played multiple artifact creatures in Patchwork Beastie and the 2-mana Wickerfolk. The long and short of it is that Black removal is weaker, but definitely still plenty effective. Bit of Triumph and Nowhere to Run are sticking around and should help shore up any blind spots for Black base removal. Finally, and arguably the biggest loss in the entire rotation is for Rakdos, Azorius, and Selesnya players, who are not only losing the Pain lands, like all the other color pairs, but are the only 3 colors who are also going to be losing their fast lands. This means until likely Lorwyn next year, the only untapped dual land that can give them both colors on turn 1 will be Starting Town from Final Fantasy, making that card an auto-include in a bunch of these decks for the foreseeable future. It's very likely that because of this, no super fast aggro strategy will be able to exist in these colors for a while, unless they can rely on specific lands, such as Rakdos Lizards being able to use Cavern of Souls and Secluded Courtyard. That about wraps up what we will be saying goodbye to this year. The following rotation will be the biggest ever, but is not scheduled until the start of 2027. So until then, enjoy playing the rest of the sets, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers!